I walked into Carter's office with my resignation letter, expecting a reaction. Anger, confusion, maybe even a fake attempt to talk me out of it. What I didn't expect was the smug little smirk he gave me as he leaned back in his chair, spinning that stupid gold pen between his fingers like he was signing checks for God. "Wes," he said, like we were old friends, "you'll never find anything better." I didn't sit. I wasn't there for a conversation. "I'm leaving at the end of the month," I said, sliding the envelope across his glass desk. He didn't even open it, just tapped it once, leaned back again like he'd already won something. "You know this company took a gamble on you, right? You didn't exactly come in with a stacked resume. No Ivy League, no big-name referrals, just a loud voice and big ideas." I clenched my jaw but didn't answer. "You had potential," he said, "but potential doesn't mean much when it comes to real vision. The international expansion project, that needed someone who could see past the numbers. That was Rich. I built the entire strategy behind that expansion, ran the competitor analysis, coordinated the pilot research, even outlined the logistics for the rollout. Then my application for project lead mysteriously disappeared, and a week later, Carter handed the role to his golfing buddy, Dean, who once asked me what API stood for. "Dean's a proven leader," Carter said when I brought it up back then. "You're still figuring things out." Right. Now he was sitting here mocking me, acting like I should be grateful I got to work under him for 3 years. 3 years of staying late, picking up the slack, pitching proposals that landed our biggest clients, and somehow still being seen as the intern who got lucky. I should have said something that had knocked that smirk off his face, but I didn't. I just looked him in the eye and said, "Thanks for everything." He chuckled, signed a form without reading it, and tossed it into a tray. "You'll be back, probably in 6 months, when reality hits. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from?" I didn't even blink, just turned around and walked out. What Carter didn't know, what he'd never imagine, was that I already had something lined up. And it wasn't a lateral move, it was a leap. Triple the pay, full control, and a seat at the table. Let him think I was walking away empty-handed. He had no clue I was already building something he could never touch. I walked straight past the building, didn't even look back. Took a left on Maple, cut through the back alley behind the bakery with the busted dumpster, and headed 6 blocks north like I'd done nearly every day for the past 4 months. No one at the office ever questioned why my lunch break stretched to 90 minutes. They all thought I was out meeting clients. In a way, I was. Victor Mendez didn't advertise where he worked. He kept his operation inside a converted loft above an old record store in downtown Columbus. No sign, no logo, just a keypad and a door that buzzed when he let you in. That day, like every other, he was already waiting at the table. Laptop open, legal pad scribbled up, 2 cups of burnt gas station coffee steaming between us. "Carter, sign your death certificate yet?" he asked, flipping his pen between his fingers. I shook my head. "Today was just the warm-up," Victor grinned. He was in his late 50s, wore worn-out sneakers with tailored suits, and carried the kind of confidence that didn't need to shout. The guy basically built the foundation of our industry 15 years ago, then walked away at his peak. No one knew why, no one ever asked him twice. He saw me speak at a tiny tech workshop 4 months back. I was presenting an idea about decentralized metrics tracking, trying to convince 10 disinterested mid-managers that it could improve retention rates. Victor came up to me after, no handshake, just, "You see what others overlook." I thought he was being polite. Then he asked if I could meet the next day. Our meetings weren't chit-chat. He tore my ideas apart, rewired them, made me back up every claim with data and logic. I'd leave drenched in sweat like I'd run a marathon, but I kept showing up. I didn't tell Victor much about Carter. He only picked things up from the edges of our conversations. "What if we approached retention from the behavioral side, not procedural?" I asked once. He leaned in. "Then prove it's scalable." So I did. I spent nights building models in my apartment, tracking case studies, running mock trials. I skipped dinners, skipped sleep, didn't care. Because for the first time, someone was actually listening. Then, 2 days before I handed Carter that resignation letter, Victor slid a folder across the table. "Lead role, full autonomy. You'd build this from scratch. Team, structure, everything. We're launching quietly, but the money's already behind it." I opened the folder, triple the salary, founder's level equity, and one line under title, Director of System Strategy. I didn't even need to ask who else he was talking to. This offer's only for you, he said. You've got the mind. You've got the nerve. Most people just regurgitate what they're told. You build from zero. I stared at the numbers, then at him. Why me? I asked. Because you've been under someone who didn't see you. I want someone who's got something to prove. He stood up, clapped me on the shoulder once, and headed back toward the stairwell. You've got 48 hours, he called out. Then I'm locking the first phase of the team. He didn't need to wait that long. I took the folder home, slept for about 3 hours. The next morning, Carter's name popped up in my inbox. Subject, good luck. Message, when you fail, don't come crawling back. I read it once, closed the email, and never opened it again. No reply, no reaction. He wanted to get in my head. He didn't get the chance. Instead, I buried myself in cleanup. 3 weeks of tying up loose ends. Project docs, handoff guides, status reports no one would ever read. Most of it was for Elise, the junior analyst I'd been mentoring. She was sharp, picked things up fast, but Carter barely noticed her. I spent extra time with her, walked her through every system I built, every metric I used to keep projects on track. They'll try to talk over you, I told her. Don't let them. She nodded, taking notes like her life depended on it. Rumors started flying that second week. A marketing guy whispered in the break room that I'd had some kind of meltdown. HR asked if I was sure I didn't want an exit interview. A few folks avoided me altogether, like quitting was contagious. I didn't bother correcting anyone. Let them talk. Let Carter think I was out there flailing. Friday afternoon hit. I grabbed my single box, a plant, a framed photo, and my badge. No one said goodbye. Not even Carter. Elise just gave me a tight nod. She understood. Walking out of that building felt like crossing enemy lines. I wasn't leaving a job. I was walking away from 3 years of fighting uphill and still being treated like a risk. Monday morning, I stood in front of Victor's building. Same keypad, same quiet buzz. Only this time, I wasn't walking in as a guest. 12 people sat waiting around a long table when I stepped in. Engineers, analysts, ops leads. Some older than me. One had 20 years of experience. They all turned when Victor said, "Meet your director." My throat tightened for half a second, but I nodded, dropped my bag, and got to work. We didn't waste time. By lunch, we were sketching out the core framework. By 3, we had a task map. By 7, we'd laid the foundation for a full pilot program. I stayed behind after everyone left, pacing between whiteboards covered in notes. That's when the doubt hit. Not fear exactly, but this sharp pressure in my chest. Like the weight of everything I had to prove just dropped all at once. Victor walked in, glanced around, then looked at me. Feeling it yet? I nodded. Little bit. He smiled. Good. Means you care. He left me with that, and I stayed another hour, rewriting half a section of the workflow plan. I wasn't just building something new. I was erasing the part of me that ever needed someone like Carter to validate what I could do. And by the end of that night, I finally felt like I had the right tools in my hands. I came in early that morning, still tweaking the back-end workflow for the second rollout phase. Half the team was already in the war room. Victor was on a call in the corner, pacing. Then Annie, our operations lead, burst in, holding up her phone. "Check tech reel, now!" I pulled it up. There it was. Bold headline, Victor Mendez returns. Names unknown, talent as project lead for Disruption Initiative. And right under that, my name. Not just a mention, I was the feature. Quotes from Victor, screenshots from our pitch deck, even a photo of me from some event I didn't even remember posing for. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Calls, texts, emails. I swiped through one after another. Old coworkers, recruiters, people who'd never said a word to me before, now suddenly wanted to connect. Then the one that really made me laugh. A connection request from Carter. Message attached. Congrats. Let's discuss possible collaboration. I stared at it for a second, then closed the app and didn't touch it again. We were busy. Too busy to entertain ghosts. 6 weeks in, the calendar pinged with the investor pitch meeting. Real players this time. 3 VC firms, one from New York, one from Chicago, one from LA. I figured Victor would lead the room. That's how these things worked, right? Nope. He pulled me aside that morning. "You're taking point," he said. I blinked. "You're not pitching with me? I'll be in the room. But this is your build. Your vision. You speak for it. My stomach dropped. You sure? Victor nodded. You've got the fire. Don't play backup anymore. We walked into the conference room at exactly 1 p.m. I had my slides, my notes, my numbers. But once I started, I didn't look down again. I walked them through the framework. Clean, direct, scalable. I showed use cases, early feedback from test groups, live metrics. I hit every point we'd worked on for weeks. And when one of the partners tried to poke holes in it, I pushed back. Not with attitude, with facts, logic, confidence. When I finished, the room was quiet for a second. Then one of them said, I've seen 20 pitches this quarter. Yours is the only one I actually believe could flip the market. Victor gave me a look. Not proud, not surprised. Just steady, like he knew that version of me had been there the whole time, waiting to be let off the leash. I walked out of that room taller. Because for the first time in my career, I wasn't the one asking for permission. I was the one steering the ship. After the pitch, things moved fast. Interest exploded. Everyone wanted in on our framework. Media firms, fintech, logistics, even some government contractors. 2 months in, we finalized the pilot list. 20 companies. Friday morning, we pushed out the approval emails. 40 minutes later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, it rang again. I picked up. Wes, it's Carter. His voice had that fake calm he used when he was trying not to sound pissed. I just got word we didn't make the pilot cut. There must be some kind of error. No error, I said. It was blind, judged on merit like everyone else. Silence. Then, I think you and I both know where this originated. I do, I said, and it wasn't you. He hung up. I slid my phone into my desk drawer and kept working. A week later, Victor forwarded me a link with no subject line, just the article. The framework everyone's talking about, we built it first. And there he was, Carter, front and center, sitting with some tech journalist who clearly didn't fact-check anything. He went on and on about how the core concepts came from his department, how they'd been exploring that space long before others caught on. He even dropped my name, said I was one of many contributors, but that the original vision started under him. I didn't yell, didn't post, didn't even tell the team. Instead, I walked into Victor's office, dropped the article on his desk, and said, "Let's open more slots." He looked up. Same process? Exactly the same. Let the work speak. We added 10 new pilot positions, sent out the updated form. Carter's firm reapplied under a new internal team name. I knew it was them from the formatting alone. Same language, same clunky phrasing they always used in pitch decks. Still, we scored it like everything else. Pure rubric, 5 judges, consensus-based. When the results came in, I stared at the screen and didn't blink. They came dead last. Not second to last, dead last. One of the evaluators actually wrote, "Doesn't meet basic criteria for user integration. Seems rushed and underdeveloped." I sent the results to Victor with no comment. He replied 5 minutes later. They exposed themselves. Let the silence hang. Victor and I sat across from each other, laptops open, reviewing the final agenda for our quarterly review. Board members were flying in. The top 5 pilot firms were attending in person, and half a dozen investors had RSVP'd, and one other name had just confirmed. Carter said yes, Victor said, barely glancing up from his screen. I leaned back. He thinks it's a win for him. Victor smirked. Then let him walk straight into it. We'd invited Carter to speak during the ecosystem impact segment. Not a trap, a chance, a real platform to explain what he claimed was his contribution to the framework. The same one he'd told the press came from his team. He accepted without hesitation. Probably thought this was his moment to grab the mic and spin the narrative. The event kicked off on a Friday morning. Packed conference room, cameras rolling, name tags everywhere. I stepped up to the podium first. Appreciate everyone being here. Let's walk through how we got here, what we built, how we tested it, and why it works. I didn't hold back. Broke down every piece, from initial theory to execution models to real pilot results. Metrics, use cases, the feedback loops we designed to adapt on the fly. I wasn't flashy, just clear, direct, precise. When I finished, the room applauded. Everyone except Carter. He sat with his arms crossed, that same tight smirk from when I gave him my resignation letter. Victor called him up next. Carter took the stage like he owned it. "Thanks for having me," he started. "It's good to see how far this space has come. Back when we were exploring these ideas at my previous company, I looked at Victor. He just nodded once. Let him talk." Carter kept dodging specifics. He dropped words like disruptive, synergy, conceptual backbone. He talked in loops, never naming a single technical function or metric. Just smoke. I waited until the Q&A section. Raised my hand first. "Can you walk us through the exact components your team developed that fed into this framework?" His smile faltered for a second. "Well, Wes, as you know, innovation's a team sport. These things evolve across time and talent." "I agree," I said. "So, which parts were yours?" He shifted in place. "Our team laid the early groundwork." Victor stood, walked to the center screen. "I no need to guess," he said. He tapped his remote. A project timeline appeared on the screen, clear, color-coded. Every stage of the framework matched to timestamps, names, and version histories. Each line led back to internal development notes. Mine. Then Victor clicked again. A second set of documents popped up. Industry feedback archives Carter himself had published internally years ago. The room leaned in. One by one, Carter's own feedback entries lit up the screen. "Too ambitious. Not a priority this quarter. Doesn't understand the market." Each rejection tied directly to the same features we just rolled out across our pilot firms. Carter froze. Arms still crossed, face stiff. I stepped forward. "These were your documented responses, Carter. Any part of the framework you'd like to claim now. You shut down when you had the chance to back it." He opened his mouth, then closed it. Victor let the silence hang, then said, "Let's move on." Carter left the stage without another word. No handshake, no eye contact. Just walked out, past the investors, past the partners, past the same people he once told I'd never amount to anything. I didn't chase him, didn't gloat, didn't have to. The truth landed harder than anything I could have said. Carter vanished after the quarterly. No follow-ups, no emails, nothing. Just gone. But not for long. 3 weeks later, his face showed up in a press release for a mid-tier consultancy in Atlanta. Same stiff pose, same smug expression. The headline called him a visionary leader who recognized emerging talent before it broke out. Recognized. That was the word they used. In the write-up, he spun this new narrative, said he'd seen my potential early on, and strategically stepped aside so I could grow. Claimed the entire framework came from seeds he planted, and that I was the natural evolution of his leadership. I read it 3 times. Furious wasn't even the word. He'd gone from thief to mentor in one article. I wanted to burn it all down. Go public with everything. The rejections, the smirks, the email he sent when I quit. But I didn't. I waited. 2 days later, a producer from a business podcast emailed me. They were covering rising innovation firms and wanted my take on leadership and credit, especially in light of Carter's new role. I agreed, not to clap back, to clarify. During the interview, the host leaned in and asked, "What did Carter teach you?" I didn't hesitate. "Carter taught me how dangerous it is when credit isn't shared. That's why we make sure every contributor here is seen." That was it. Simple, honest, no names beyond that. The episode dropped the following Monday. Within hours, my inbox exploded. Messages from engineers, designers, analysts, people from every industry. Some told me they'd been in my shoes. Others said they were still stuck under someone like Carter. One guy from Texas wrote, "Your story gave me the push I needed. I walked out today. Feels terrifying and free." That's when it hit me. We weren't just building tools. We were building proof. Proof that you didn't need to play politics or kiss up to get ahead. Just bring the work and get the hell out of the way. More firms came knocking. Not just for our framework, but for our culture. They wanted what we had. A place where people didn't have to beg for recognition. We built fast, scaled faster. Our retention hit record highs. Interns became team leads in under a year. No titles were hoarded, no voices ignored. And Carter, he kept doing panels, kept name dropping. But the clicks got fewer, the invites quieter. He didn't crash. He faded. Because the truth doesn't need a headline. It just needs time. The stage lights were hot, but I barely felt them. My focus was locked on the plaque in my hand. Award for Industry Innovation. A year ago, I'd walked out of Carter's office with a box. Now, I stood at a podium in a packed hotel ballroom, getting a standing ovation. I thanked the board, nodded to my team, and stepped down. Cameras flashed. Someone handed me a drink. And then I saw him, Carter, standing near the back, half in shadow, nursing a glass of wine he probably didn't pay for. He waited until the crowd thinned, then approached like nothing had ever happened. "Congrats," he said, reaching out a hand. "Always knew you'd go far." I shook it, quick and polite. "Thanks." He stayed close, too close. Tried to act casual, like we were just two guys catching up after a decade apart. "Maybe we had some miscommunications about credit back then," he said. "Miscommunications?" I repeated. "Is that what you're calling it now?" He gave a tired smile. "It's how the world works, Wes. Everyone steps on toes climbing the ladder." "Maybe, but we've built something different." I turned, pointed toward the table where my team sat, laughing, clinking glasses, relaxed for once. 97% retention. Everyone's voice counts. No one has to steal. He scoffed, shook his head. "You're the exception, not the rule." "Maybe for now." I stepped past him. He grabbed my arm lightly. Not aggressive, just a desperate hold to stay relevant. "Was Victor watching you while you still worked for me?" I looked him dead in the eye. "No, he noticed the work you ignored." I left him standing there, in a room he no longer knew how to navigate. A few weeks later, I got the contract on my desk. Carter's old firm, now Bleeding Talent, wanted to license our full system, at premium rates. I signed it without hesitation. The name on the approval line read, Wes Holloway, Director of System Strategy. The message was simple. We weren't just changing the game. We were writing the new rules.